Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live today. We have a great session lined up for you. We are here yet again to discuss new historical records that we've added to MyHeritage. We are just adding historical records at such an amazing pace here. So we thought the best way to update you on all the new collections that we're adding is to do Facebook Lives every 2 weeks. So that means on the first Tuesday and on the third Tuesday of every month, we are meeting with our directors of content in order to get updated on all the historical record collections that we've added in the 2 weeks before that. As well, we always like to do a spotlight on an old collection. So we have something for everyone. You get to learn about the new collections, but also do a little bit of a deep dive into one of our older and more established collections of historical records. And there are so many gems out there in these historical record collections. So there is definitely something for everyone, lots for us all to learn about. So thank you everyone for joining us. If you haven't yet, please do let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from, where you're joining us today. I see we have Mona joining us from Norway, Dana from Arizona, Barry from Ohio, Jenny from Sweden. So we have viewers here from all over the world, which is really perfect because our historical record collections are global. They're from all over the world. We really have a vast treasure trove of historical records from every corner of the world. So lots of records for everyone, no matter where your roots are, no matter which country, which continent. So we're going to learn more about all those different collections that we have for you today. I'm going to introduce our speaker. We have with us Mikko Cleland, and Mikko is our director of content. So he works really hard with the whole content team to source all these fantastic historical record collections. Before I bring him on, I just want to let you know that we'll do a little giveaway today, as we like to do, and we'll be giving away a MyHeritage Complete Plan to one lucky viewer. So in order to enter, leave a question or a comment in the comment section. We're going to be getting into details in your family tree today. So we'd love to see comments that tell us about one detail you learned about somebody in your family tree that was really interesting or fascinating. Something small, something big. Let us know. But always, as always, definitely leave us questions or comments that you have throughout, and we do try to get to all the questions in the question and answer period at the end. So I'll bring Mikko here onto the screen, and he can tell us all about the new historical record collections that we have to offer on MyHeritage. So let's bring him on here to say hello. Let's see if we can. There we go. Hello, Mikko.
Hi, everyone okay? I hope everyone's doing well and enjoying family history, and it's a warm day wherever you are. It's not so much, it's quite grey here in Scotland, but I'm kind of used to that.
Great. So do you want to take it away? Do you want to share your screen?
Let's do it.
Okay. So did you want to share your screen again, or that's
not yet? No, we'll just talk it through. We'll do it the old-fashioned way, as genealogists like to do.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay, take it away.
Great stuff. So I see lots of people here from all kinds of different places in the world, and I know some of the places that are mentioned are going to be very happy either now or in the very near future, which is really exciting. Particularly those of you with Scandinavian or Nordic ancestors. There's some really good collections that are just on the horizon for those places. So really exciting there. And some great new records for the United States as well, from a lot of states that are mentioned, including one particular state that I've already seen mentioned that we can celebrate even today. And I notice, Carol, you're from Minnesota. I don't know if northern Minnesota counts as Duluth, but I've got a lot of family that ended in Duluth. So perhaps you're near there. If you ever go for a walk, you might find a building named after one of my relatives, the Selwood building, which is something I'll go and visit one day. But enough about my family history. As a genealogist, I will just talk about it all the time. And we're here to talk about your family history and the ways that MyHeritage can help you discover it. And so first of all, the biggest thing is to talk about all the great new records that we have released in the past couple of weeks. We've been releasing an average of more than one record collection a day over the past year. and that's fantastic. But as I say, it's an average. So some weeks you're going to get a massive expansion of 10, 12, 15 record collections. Other weeks might be a little bit slower. I say slower, it's still an incredible pace. So this week, well, I can't really say it's a thin week, but it means there's lots more coming that's a little bit bigger. It takes a little bit more time to work on. So it's an exciting thing anyway. And the point is, when you go to that record catalogue, there's always new stuff, no matter when you look. So even though it's been 2 weeks, not 14 record collections, but some really nice, really big ones, and there's many more coming. So we're still going to keep to that more than one record collection a day. So there's still every reason to go back and look all the time. So let's talk about the new collections that have been released in the past 2 weeks since Mike was here. And it feels like almost yesterday, doesn't it? But since he was updating, I think on his go round, he had so many record collections to go through. I think he couldn't even name them all. There were so many to fit in. So that just shows you see how we have this ebb and flow. But it always means we keep that pace going. We have so many records because every record is somebody's ancestor. So let's start with something happy. Philadelphia Marriages, the great city in Pennsylvania where it is always sunny. Over 500,000 records from there. We've got some obituaries and death notices from Maine, the whole state of Maine. We've got over 350,000 of those. Indiana Central Normal College students, and they're not normal college students, they're students from Central Normal College, which is something to be aware of. Central Normal College is spread across the state. It's not just in one place, but there's 70,000 people who are students there. We've had a massive update to our Ohio deaths. I saw someone mention they were from Ohio, so great to hopefully help you with your research. If you've got relatives and friends and people you might be able to look up in there. We're now at 3.7 million names in that collection. Huge collection there. We've got deaths from the city of Boston. I won't do the accent. 700,000 records in that collection. A great new way to find what happened to maybe some of your friends, relatives, ancestors using that collection. And then we've got from Oklahoma, Tulsa County death notices, 120,000 records there. A huge bumper update. So we have 6 new collections in the past 2 weeks, and many, many more ready to be launched any day now. So we will keep updating you every fortnight with these new things that are coming through. Every 2 weeks, you'll find myself, you'll find Mike, and we'll be here and we'll show you and walk you through some of these great collections that are coming. It's great to see hopefully that you'll get to enjoy these records, and so do come back and tell us if you find new things, if you're excited by newly released collections, or if there's collections that you want to see that maybe we might be able to have a bit of a look for and maybe be able to help you with. I see some questions and other things as well. I see, we've got happiness for the Maine records and for Boston. And Carol says she does have relatives in Duluth, so that's exciting. Well, if you've got any Selwoods or Morrows or anything like that, then you'll have to get in touch. We might be related. And Charlie's saying that their auntie used to be the registrar at Boston. That's a wonderful feeling, isn't it? That they've been part of all these records that are being used every day by all these genealogists and by people looking for their ancestors. They were there. I was speaking to my great aunt only about a week ago, and she was involved in registering births at a hospital. And she was explaining that when she registered these births, and this is something I didn't really know about in England and Wales, and they have this birth register you might have used if you're doing any English research, Welsh research, and you might even be using it quite a lot now that they're newly digitized. These early collections are £2.50 each. They've gone down, so it's much easier, like an instant delivery. That only happened very recently at the official government website. But the hospital filled in this more detailed register, and then the birth registrar took this information and only took the things they considered important. So the birth register that we see when we go online and we take a look at that, or when we order that certificate and it comes, is actually much less detailed. They put in things like the weight and all this other information. And so now it has become my quest to try and find if any of those early registers, the pre-registers, survive or exist anywhere, because they will be full of so much extra information. It's amazing what you can find when you talk to someone in the know. So perhaps your aunt has lots and lots of extra information about these Boston records, which could be a fascinating thing to learn about and to hear. I see George saying that we're the fastest growing commercial service. I think we try definitely to be. If I could talk about all the things I want to, I think you'd be very impressed. But I think the only thing we can do is show you very progressively over time. I think you probably noticed the pace has increased massively in terms of records we release. And not only that, the number of matches you'll find on your tree. We've definitely got many, many more people using MyHeritage. Lots of chances for you to find matches, DNA cousins, as well as records. I think everything's coming together very nicely. All these new wonderful features as well. I think it's the place to watch. And I think it's somewhere that if you haven't got your tree on MyHeritage, you really should. You never know what might pop up. And especially, I'm going to show you when I go to our past collection highlight, how to look at these records, how to look at these new records, because although I've done this before, it can never be talked about enough, because it is the way you're going to find this stuff the second that it is released, and you'll be able to see perhaps your perfect records. So I'm going to have a quick look at some questions as well, just while we're there. So let's see what we have. Kane says, do I have access to all census records in the UK? So I can take that question in a number of different ways. First of all, the first or the earliest national census the semblance of national census that's available is 1841. From 1841 to 1911, we have that. Every 10 years, a census taken, and that goes through. And then if you go to 1921, that has been digitized, and that has a period of exclusivity. And in a couple of years, then that will then be able to be on other websites. So 1921 census we haven't got at the moment, but the time is ticking. We will, so don't worry. And in the meantime, we have lots of other records that nobody else has got. So it's all that kind of give and take. So certainly it depends where your ancestors are from, what's going on, but certainly don't let that delay you. There's still plenty of other things to discover as well. And we're seeing some more comments here. Updating the theory of relativity more often. We updated it fairly recently, if I remember rightly, and that was a good help, but certainly we shall be updating it again. And it is good, isn't it? It's really helpful to push us a little bit further. I definitely got a few extra matches. So it's another reason to keep your tree updated to get the best version of that. I see Charlie said, I found who I believe is my mother. How do I go about contact? Now, this is a really delicate question. I would say that this is something that your approach would be very personal to you. And to do what worked for someone else might not work for you, because everyone is different, and you're different, your mother's different from some other circumstance. Some what worked there might not be the right approach for you in this case. If they're on MyHeritage or something like that, then send them a message. Start with that and hope they will reply. If not, if you found them in some other way, then I would say certainly perhaps turning up on the doorstep might be a little bit full on. Maybe send a letter, give your contact details, and give people chance to absorb this information, because it takes a lot. It is a big thing, this, and it's a wonderful thing, but it is big, and it takes a lot of decompression and thought. And sometimes you might not hear anything for a few weeks, and that's okay. Just let this process play out. Don't badger them with things. And also remember that the answer you get might not be the answer you want, and that's something you have to prepare yourself for. But when you found your mother, so that's a great thing. And even if you don't get the answer you want, you still have an identity now that you didn't have before. You have ancestors to research. You have a story to tell that you didn't have before. So don't consider it a failure. Don't think of it in that way at all. And I don't suggest that it's going to be, because I'm sure you'll find these things often work themselves out. So have hope, and just remember that you have something special now that you didn't have before. So that's a really big thing. So take your time, think it through, and give it as much time as you can while waiting for someone to come to terms with it. That is the best advice, I think, for that. So let's see what else we've got here. Eva's just got a DNA report not long ago. Very interesting. That's good. Lots of great new things coming with DNA that we'll hopefully be talking about in the near future. So watch this space. We love technology here at MyHeritage. Some great new developments on the way. And Crystal say, my mom was hesitant to get her DNA tested. I finally convinced her, and with the help of MyHeritage record collection, I was able to track down her half sister. They finally meet after COVID and now speak at least once a week or more. She loves MyHeritage now. That's good. It's great that we played a part in that. You might see a great number of newspaper articles and things like that that relate to wonderful reunion stories that we've been involved in. But one of the big things as well, you'll have people who are very into records, you'll have people who are very into DNA. The two are interlinked. They're really important. There was a very close DNA match to me I got in touch with, and they never replied. I never got a message back, and that was okay, because I knew the relationship and I did a little bit of paperwork and I got the answers I needed without ever them needing to reply. Maybe they've never ever seen that message. I don't know. And I'll probably never know. But I could use traditional genealogy and I could still find the information I needed. So that was really, really important and really useful. And of course, DNA is really useful for proving if you find a fourth or fifth cousin. A lot of people here are looking at very close relatives. It's great when you find a more distant cousin because you can work backwards on their tree and on your tree. Don't be afraid about doing someone else's family tree a little bit. If you know they're a DNA match, they're going to connect eventually, so it's not wasted work. And when they do connect, you've proven that link. You've shown that these people have got correct research going back. So that means that you've not got any illegitimacy, you've not made a mistake when you're finding the records and you've attached the wrong mother or father or anything like that. So that's still really, really useful. So don't discount those more distant relatives. They're incredibly helpful. If you find fourth to sixth cousins, they are gold. They are perfect for getting a little bit further and for getting that confirmation that you need, particularly when you can do things with chromosomes and other stuff. And perhaps you might have to talk in detail about some of these clever DNA things that you can do with MyHeritage at some other point. But I'm going to talk a little bit about our record highlight. So I'm going to bring back, as we do, a former record collection that I say former, a record collection we've released in the past that you can access as well, that also is really interesting or exciting and you might have forgotten about or might not know about, that might help you. I'm going to show you as well a feature. So let's take a look at these. So I'm going to go and I'm going to share my screen. Now this is of course new to me, so let's make sure I get this right. Hopefully you can see my screen. I'm hopeful. I think so. So this is my homepage. First of all, I'm going to show you where our records are because that's what we all want to know. You go to Collection Catalog on the Research tab. And when you see this, you can see these great number of collections, the vastly increasing number of records, but change this sort by from number of records to last updated, and you'll see all of these collections that have been updated, when they've been updated, how many records are inside them. So you can see the records that are constantly being updated, the family trees, we can see other things, MyHeritage photos, MyHeritage members, and then we can see here the main obituaries we talked about, the Indiana students, the Ohio deaths, and I can go backwards through time. Maybe I've not logged on in a couple of weeks. I can just go through and say, well, I wonder what's new. I can take a look. And that means if you keep looking in this place and you look by last updated, you'll see things the second they go live. So you might look in an afternoon and find an extra collection that wasn't there in the morning, because that's what we do. Sit down. We've got this wonderful team that process this material. They put it up, and as soon as it's ready, you can start searching. So there's some great things. So that is how to see the most recent collections, but I know what I'm looking for. So I can filter on the left, I can change by year, I can do everything else. I can show only records with images if I want to see anything like that. But I'm going to search for border crossings. Now I'm going to make sure, there we go. Border crossings from Canada, 1895 to 1956. That's the collection I'm really excited about today. So this collection is anyone that crossed the border. I know I have an uncle that crossed the border. They came from America and they went over to Canada and they crossed back because the first time they came to America wasn't the most official way. So they needed an official entry so that they could start to claim citizenship, because hiding in a pile of coal to get across the ocean is not the most usual way of getting into America. So he did that. He's got his border crossing. But these records are fantastic because it's not just new entrants to America. You've got American citizens who are visiting Canada. You've got people who are neither emigrating to America, or a Canadian. They may be just visiting on holiday. They may be tourists. There are many, many reasons that you could be in these records. And all of these border crossings covered here, we can see almost 12.5 million names here. I'm going to look for perhaps, I'm going to see, here we go. So here I've got 93 results. I'm going to grab one of these. Let's see which one we feel excited about. Let's say, let's grab Teresina. That's all right. She's at the top. Let's give her the limelight today. So we see she's widowed. She was born. We've got a full birth date there, 28th of October, 1919, Nocera Terenese in Italy. And we see she arrived 17th of April, 1952, going to St. Albans in Vermont. And the last residence was in Canada. She's 32. We see relatives as well. Her mother, Angela de Bartolo, who lives in Quebec. We've got a street. And then we have another relative, Domenico Aversa, who lives in Maryland. But I could save that record if I want. The best thing I can do is take a look at the image, because that's got more stuff on here. So we see her name. We've got our passport number, really useful if you want to perhaps track down that document. There are lots of great Italian records you might have to do a session on at some point. Even the expiry date of that. We've got the place of issue. So we see that she's been in Quebec. That's where she's from, Montreal, and she's coming from there to the United States. We see there where she was born, as we've seen. We see her age. So she's a widow. She's a sewer. She can read and write. She speaks Italian. We see that's her nationality as well. We see where her mother lives, which is probably where she is living as well. But we can look in all kinds of different records to be sure of that. She's never been to the US before. That really helps us as well. She paid her own passage, and she's going to see friends. There we go, Mr. and Mrs. Domenico Aversa. So that was that Domenico Aversa. So that tells us more. But it says she's going to reside permanently. So this is her first step into America. So after this, we can follow this and find immigration records that relate to naturalization or citizenship or any kinds of oath of allegiance, anything like that, alien registration files, which are common for foreigners coming into America. So it's a really great first step. And also we get, I always like this, you get their height, their complexion, their hair color, eye color, and any distinguishing marks. I love that. And we see also her date of landing. So she arrived in Quebec in 1949. So she's been there for about 3 years. We can see before her arriving here, coming across from Quebec to the United States. We see when she was admitted. We see all this extra detail, and we even see her signature there. I love that. It's great to see this extra bit of detail. So these are a great set of records. We can exit our full screen. And let's go back to those records. I can download that if I want. I can even go page by page if I want to as well. And many, many other things I can search for. Let's see if I can find someone who is from somewhere else. Someone from Glasgow. Why not? Of course. Same thing we see here. He's 24. He's going to Minneapolis in Minnesota. We mentioned Minnesota before. Handwritten this one. 24. We see he's a plasterer. He's Scotch, which is the word for Scottish. Mrs. Lindsay is his closest address for a friend or relative. Same kind of thing. We see that wonderful, wonderful detail. Really, really helpful. And so really, really great stuff. This is a really good collection. And so type names in, take a look at this, because you're not just looking for people who arrive. You may be looking for people who've gone to Canada and come back, people who have visited. And there are many reasons for people being in here. The same with a lot of these migration records. We've got a great collection called the Holland America line. And you see these are passenger lists for a shipping line from the Netherlands, but it's people who traveled in this route. It doesn't mean that they're Dutch. There are a great many people in here. There are famous people. There are other people. So you see here our sample record, Thomas Mann, who was a German novelist. And so this is a German chap. There we go. He booked from France. He departed from Rotterdam. It was a really common port for people to leave Europe, and he arrived in New York. We can see these wonderful color records with all this detail. And we look at the names here. We've got a Nixon, we've got a Wood, a Major, a Harkness, a Frankenheimer, a Wittmann, a Mann, a Stein, a Strasser. There's a great number of different nationalities in here. So don't be limited by the locations that some of these migration records are in, because it doesn't really matter. It only matters that people are passing through and what those people are doing and where they're going. So there are plenty of reasons to take a look at these collections, even though at first glance they might not look like the ones to go on. I'm going to show you a feature as well while we're here. So on your family tree, there's this wonderful thing called a consistency checker. And I really like this because everyone makes mistakes. All genealogists make mistakes. Good genealogists correct them. So don't be ashamed if you have mistakes. It's something to be proud of, because if you found them, it means you've improved and you've gotten better. Sometimes it can be something as simple as just pressing a 1 or a 2 when you mean the letter next to it, the number next to it. That's easy to fix, but you don't notice at the time, and it could stay there forever, and you'll never know. You might not be getting matches on your tree because of that. There might be a number of different reasons why this is a bad idea. So we're going to fix it, and we're going to make sure that we can do better. So if I go to my consistency checker, it loads my report for my tree, and it tells me there's a few issues with my family tree. Again, no problem with having issues. We just have to work out why, and we need to try and fix them. So there are a lot of people here that I have a birth date for, and I haven't found their death, which is fair. I've got to look for this. I've got to see. So I could mark these people as deceased so that I know they're deceased, and I say, well, they're not still alive. They're not 120. They're not 123, 25, anything like this. But what I like to do is it tells me I need to go and look for a death record. And this means I can go and try and find if Sarah McPhee Reed has a death record somewhere that I can look for. All these great collections of death records that we've been publishing recently, all these obituaries, great places to look if we know where they are. And then we can use those to try and mark these people as deceased, but give them a death date as well. So we've got a proper lifespan. So really, really helpful.
Sorry, Nico. Sorry to interrupt you. We still see the Netherlands passenger lists.
Oh, okay. Let me try, and that's a good thing for telling me. I'm gonna.
Sorry to interrupt.
I found it. This is technology, ladies and gentlemen. So there we go. So I apologise.
No problem.
I didn't get very far, so don't worry. Thank you very much, Esther. That's really helpful. It's great to have someone watching your back when you're a Luddite like me. So here we go. I have my consistency issues. 121. I've got these people who are alive but too old. So we think they're not really with us. We've got to take a look. I could just mark them as deceased, but I want to go and find their death records, and I know perhaps where they are. I can click on them. I can take a look at them. I can see he's born in Ayrshire. I know his date of birth. I could use that. I could take a look, and I could go through and have a think. There's a number of these different people I can go through. There's other things that it will search for as well as people who are alive but too old. This is one of my more common consistency issues I need to look at. So I'm going to go through all of those. I have parents too young when having a child. So I see a 15-year-old, 13 or 14 or 15-year-old having a child. This is cultural. So in this case, as this, we'll cover this with another thing as well. There's a reason for this, and there's a way I can adjust it as well to fix it. So we've got fact occurring before birth. This is definitely an issue with typing. It's an error. There's no way that could have happened. So I know that's wrong. I need to go and take a look at Bertram Robert Dent and wonder what's happened. Have I got the number wrong? Is he not born on August the 18th and baptized on August the 5th? What's going on? There's definitely something I need to look at. I'll have that fixed by next time, I promise you. Siblings with a close age, that looks like perhaps I've not quite got the year right. Perhaps there may have been a typo, something like that. Easy to fix, take a look. Maybe these are not quite the right dates, and I need to fix those dates as well. People who married too young, which ties in with those people who have children too young. I've got 14, 14, 13, 14, and married name entered as maiden name. So these are people with the same name who are married. In these cases, they are just different separate families, but it's something to remember because you may, by mistake, put that in. So that is something to note. And then different uses of cases. So I've got someone called Joanne who has one word name with a capital A in there, which is relatively rare, but I know that's her name, so I can keep that. But some of these things don't quite apply. So in Sicily, where a lot of my ancestors are from, they did marry at 13 and 14. That was something that happened, and that was a cultural difference. So there's a tab, and I can take a look in here, this consistency checker, and I can adjust and look for things that I want to look for. So I can see if there's some errors that I'm not interested in, I can turn them off and it won't show me those particular errors. If I want to look for people who may not be with us, I can change that age. Maybe I've got people in my tree that did live to 115 or 116. I want to adjust this age. People who are alive but too old, I can make this longer. So I can say perhaps anyone who's more than 90 years old, it will make me want to check. And I can just see what I can do with that. And that can give me some more clues. Parent too young and having a child. In my case, with Sicily, it's probably more likely it's going to be around about 14 rather than 16. So I know about that. Parent too old, 64 sounds fine to me. Facts occurring before and after birth and death, really important. I'll keep that. Siblings of close end, I'll keep that. Age difference with spouse, keep that. Married too young, again, probably 14. 13 is also common in Sicily, but I'll stay with 14. Died too young. All of these I can check and decide which ones I want to keep. So it's still looking for all these extra faults that might be there. They're not in my tree, but it's still looking for them and making sure. So I want to keep those on as well, because if I do make that mistake in future, then I've got this looking out for me. And I come back to this quite often. And that helps me because it tells me if I've made these little mistakes. It's really, really useful. And that can keep me honest and make sure that these mistakes don't sit. Because when you work on one part of the family tree, then you move to another part of the family tree, you've made the mistake and then it just hides. And it might hide for years before we spot it. So it's really helpful to keep that. So I click apply and then I can recalculate my report and it will check again and it will remove some of those issues that I had before, and it will give me a more accurate answer. So it's really, really helpful. We see it's just going through. I've got quite a large tree, so it's taking a bit of time. Perhaps maybe we'll come back to that. But there we go. So it's a really, really useful tool, and it's something that I really, really like to use, as I said, to keep myself honest. I love to find those errors before they hide and lurk in the dark, and maybe someone else might copy them. And that's one thing that I can't stand. I don't know about you. And they say, a lie goes around the world before truth has put their shoes on. And I think that's the case with family history sometimes. You see someone has put something in a family tree person, and then they've copied that. Someone else has copied it. Someone else has copied it. And then it's gone around the houses before you've had a chance to correct it. So it's good to be on top of that. I see some more questions and details here. So I'm just having a quick look through as I've been away from the screen while I've been doing that. So I'm going to see what we've got here. So we've got Tina. I've been married twice. I had a son with the first husband. Second husband adopted this son. How do I enter this in my heritage? It shows me as having adopted my son, even though I've entered on his biological mother. That's interesting. I think you can add extra facts, and you can add facts that will clarify this information. So I would do that. I'd put extra detail in there so that you've got all that information in, because that is really useful to record. And that's really helpful. I see you enjoying the recent updates, so that's good. That's the way I always look at these records. Really, really important, really helpful. And that's, always, every day I take a look there and see what's new. We've got here, I found out I'm related to the captain from Köpenick, Hauptmann von Köpenick. He stole the town hall treasury with his officer's uniform, which he'd bought. He's very famous in Germany. I love seeing a rogue in history. We've got so many of those wonderful, lovable rogues in our family history. And when I hear another story about someone else's, it always brings a joy to me. I've got certainly a few of my own. And if you haven't got them in your family tree, then you have to wonder, perhaps you're the rogue. And that's something also to document so that future generations can see. But I'm sure if you keep digging, you might find some others too. They say he who has not knaves and beggars in their family tree, it was begotten by lightning. I remember that phrase very well. We all have sheep thieves and all kinds of ne'er-do-wells, as well as heroes and great people. It's great to see that patchwork come together to make our ancestors. I see Carol is from North Wales. I've got some relatives in North Wales, from Flintshire and Denbigh, so maybe we're cousins as well. Eva is from Scotland, as am I. Hello from Edinburgh. Maybe I can see you from the window. And Carol's saying you're supposed to see the doctor. That was me. That was the technical thing. I promise that won't happen again. we see, does MyHeritage take Y DNA and Y transfers? So we don't transfer in Y DNA, we have autosomal DNA. So there's different kinds of DNA. You've got, for those of you who don't know, you've got Y DNA, which is your father's inheritance. So it's passed down through the male line. You get it from your father if you're male. If you're a female, you don't have it, but your brother will have it. And if you have a child as a female, then your partner's Y DNA will be in your son. So it's one of those things that's passed through. But autosomal DNA is the one that you are most probably used to, where you inherit roughly half from your mother, half from your father in this wonderful sliced cake. And all of those different slices come together to make you. And you get to compare those slices with all of these different people and try and see. But the way that it slices, it means that it's very good for finding cousins. The Y DNA and then the other kind of DNA, maternal DNA, which is passed mother to child. So male or female, you have this, but it's passed from the mother. Because they don't really move very much, they're not split apart, they're not altered, they don't really mutate very often. So they give you more information about your deep ancestors, the people from centuries ago. They're useful perhaps for connecting lines together, but not so useful for finding those more recent cousins. The autosomal DNA, stuff that you'll find when you take that MyHeritage DNA kit, that usually is really good up to about 250 and 300 years ago, which is perfect for family history because that's where all the records tend to be. And so that's really, really helpful. So that's where we tend to focus. So no Y DNA at the moment, but autosomal is really helpful. So it's really good to upload your autosomal DNA onto MyHeritage because that will mean you'll start getting those wonderful matches. And every pool of customers and users and subscribers is different. It's worth having your DNA everywhere if you can, because you never know when you might get that perfect match. I see Frank saying, thanks to MyHeritage DNA, I've traced a family of an unknown great-great-grandfather. I'm still at the beginning of my research. Full-time fun. I think maybe that's what we should name this session, full-time fun. I like it. And certainly it is an adventure. And a great-great-grandfather. That's really good to find that. I hope you've been triangulating and doing that cousin matching, working backwards. It sounds like you've done a lot of good research there, so that's great. And Carol's just sent her DNA test back. Looking forward to the results. It won't take you too long, I promise. And you will be very excited when you get to start playing with all of that, I promise. Mary saying, how long will it take for DNA results to come? You sent it 20th of May. So you should be pretty close to the end of the path. Usually it's about 6 to 8 weeks. It depends on how busy things are, but I think you'll be close. So keep your fingers crossed. And if you are particularly worried, our wonderful support team are always there to talk to. That MyHeritage team will be able to check on things for you, but I would give it a little bit of time first because I don't think we've got to the end of that just yet. So keep your eyes peeled, but it might come very, very soon. Donna's not sure she's studious enough. I think you are. I think everyone here already, you've made the first step. You're genealogists in spirit, mind, and body. I think certainly everyone can do this. This is something that everyone starts as a beginner and they get more advanced. It just takes practice. It takes being methodical. If you like jigsaw puzzles, you're going to love genealogy, and it just takes the same kind of mind. So I think you do yourself down. I think you really, really are on the start of a very long but very wonderful and enjoyable path. And it's one that so far I've never met anyone that's finished their family history. So it's one that will keep you busy for a long time, and certainly cheaper than a lot of other hobbies. When you think of all those times you might be going out or doing something, it's great. It keeps you indoors and safe as well. With recent events, sometimes it's good to have something indoors and where you don't have to bother other people as well. Although we certainly as genealogists bother everyone because we have to tell everyone those wonderful stories. Autumn saying hers took 2 weeks. Yes, they can. Some take longer, some take shorter times. It just depends on how busy the lab is or what's going on. So don't be alarmed if it takes a bit longer. If it doesn't take that long, that's great, really exciting. But yes, just be aware it does vary quite a lot. Have they ever included the DNA from the Shroud of Turin in MyHeritage? Well, when the donor from the Shroud of Turin takes that swab test, they're welcome to upload it, but I think they may no longer be around to do it for themselves. So that's probably not going to happen in the near future, but maybe we never say never, because we know who that person's supposed to be. So perhaps we'll see. Autumn said she found a lot of relatives that she's close with, so that's good, and said use that to triangulate, use that to work things forward and backwards, and use that to then attach to records. Use records as well. That's why it's so great that we're still adding all these records as well as just having DNA, because both are really essential to getting that family history story, and that's why we're so excited to continuously be releasing all these records all the time. I can't wait to be with you again in a month's time and with Mike in 2 weeks' time to tell you of all the other things that are coming and all the other things we've released. It's going to get more exciting, I promise, even though right now it is pretty exciting. So, don't let me stop you enjoying yourself. And Maria said, family researching is never over. And I know my onions. This is a phrase that has confused a few people. I don't know if you've heard it wherever you are in the world. Someone that knows their onions is supposed to be someone who knows what they're talking about. It doesn't mean that you know a lot about vegetables, which is what some people have assumed. I thought it was really common. It turns out it's not that common, and I've made a bit of a fool of myself. But we learn. And again, as we talked about good genealogists making mistakes and fixing them, I think good learners also know when there's something to learn, and I've learned something new there, so that's important. You said we've got here some more questions. Nancy's changed her default tree. It still shows up as an older tree. How can you fix that? I think that's on your profile page, Nancy. I think you can go in there and take a look. I think you can then change that on your website settings. You can set the default tree in there and the default person and things like that. So I think that's right. But if not, then do reach out to our support team and they will be able to help. But there we go. I've run through a lot of questions. There's still a little bit of time if you want to ask me any more questions. And of course, I've shown you some records, some great, wonderful new records. And there are many more as well. I've shown you where to find them. I've shown you some older records as well that might pique your interest. And I've shown you a feature on MyHeritage, because we do love those great technical, clever features. And hopefully they will all move you a little bit further along in your family history. But most importantly, this is somewhere that you can come every 2 weeks and tell us, as we said, what you found, where you're stuck, what you're researching, what excites you, what you're doing. There are other people in here that are all avid genealogists as well, people who love family history as much as you. And we're all that eccentric in the family that does family history. So we need to gather together and be friends with each other. And this is exactly what this is for. So it's great to see all of you, and it's great to see you talking about family history together and enjoying these new records. It was very happy for me to see you get excited about a few records we've released, because it takes a lot of work on our side. There's a great number of people. I'm just here at the front at the moment, but there's a lot of people in this group that are working on these records, and they get excited as well, knowing that you enjoy these things. So the fact that you tell us and you show us, it really makes our day. So that's really helpful as well. So if you do find stuff, come and tell us. And yeah, I can't wait. There's some really big collections just on the horizon that I'd love to talk about, but they're not just here yet. I think Mike will have some good ones next time, so he's worth tuning in for. And he's also a very good speaker too. So you're never in for disappointment when you see Mike Mansfield. And then you'll see me again in about a month, about 4 weeks' time, because we're doing 1 week on, 1 week off. And it's hopefully a chance for us again to gather and talk. So thank you very much for being here. I can see a few other things. There's lots of other people talking about other stuff. It's great. Yes, thanks very much for coming. And it's been wonderful. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you again in about a month. And I hope you tune in to see Mike in 2 weeks' time. We'll have some more wonderful records. And in the meantime, keep looking at that catalogue, keep seeing the latest records, and keep working on your family tree. Thank you very much.
Oh, there we go. Oh, wow. Thank you, Miko. Some great new collections, and also a great highlight of old collections, and that tree consistency feature, which we all loved. So thank you so much. For anyone who doesn't know, our Facebook Lives are available afterwards. They're saved under the video section on our Facebook page. So if you missed part of today's show, you can go back and rewatch it. Or if you just want to rewatch it, even though you've seen it, that's also great. So it'll be available there. And now we get to give away a MyHeritage Complete Plan to one lucky viewer. So our complete plan goes today to Frank Colombo. And Miko, I think you read Frank's comment earlier. Frank wrote to us and said, thanks to MyHeritage and DNA tests, I've traced the family of an unknown great-great-grandfather, but I'm still at the beginning of my research. It's full-time fun. It just needs more time. So we love that, full-time fun. As you said, Miko, we'll name these sessions Full-Time Fun. Full-Time Fun with Mike and Miko.
It's certainly a good name. I think it's we thought of Mike Heritage and Meek Heritage, but I think that might be a little too corny. So maybe Full-Time Fun is worth it. But until then, it can be what's new in the record collections. At least it tells you what it is. But we'll know that it's full-time.
Definitely. So Frank, congratulations. Please message us on Facebook to claim your prize. To everyone else in the audience, thank you so much for joining us. And Miko, thank you. As always, so entertaining. It was just lovely being with you today for this show. Thank you.
It's great fun. I can't wait to do it again. So I'll see you all soon.
Yeah.